Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Hello, Moon to Moon. It's Britton, and I'm here with an episode celebrating the Hermit. The Hermit in the Tarot, the Hermit as the card of 2025, the Hermit as an archetype that I'm bringing in for this year's Magician's Table, calling it a year of the Hermit Magician, with the theme, the devotion that's driving you. And really just celebrating the Hermit as a larger archetype. I call the first 9 months of Emergence Astrology Year 1 a hermitage. We're actually finishing up now. We're almost to our last month of the hermitage because we started at the summer solstice. The Hermit is a card that I feel deeply connected to. It's associated with Virgo, a sign in which I have no planetary placements or asteroid placements. No placements in Virgo for me. But we are all 12 signs. And I found it to be true that there's so much goodness in falling in love with the sign opposite a sign where you have a lot of placements. And I have a lot of placements in Pisces, the sign opposite Virgo. So I feel that since way before I knew astrology, I've been leaning into the part of me that's Virgo. My teacher, Adam Summer, once said something like, scratch a Virgo hard enough and you have a Pisces. And I feel that you could loop it like that for all the polarities. We've been enjoying the polarities so much in our conversations in Unshaming Your Chart. And there's just been a lot of goodness and healing and celebration that's been happening for the students in the community there around loving the sign opposite the sign that you traditionally identify with. So the Hermit, the topic of today's conversation. My guest for this talk is someone that I have known now for quite some time. Her name is Cole. Many in my community know Cole because Cole is a learner and a student of the tarot, a student of esoteric languages, a student of magic. Cole signs up for many containers beyond mine, and there's a quality to Cole that connects her through the webs to many shared friends and colleagues across the magical community. We talk about how we connected in our conversation, so I won't repeat that here. But I was contemplating inviting a tarot lover, a tarot reader, a tarot student to come on to Moon to talk about the Hermit for this Hermit year. And the way I roll with things is like a desire will live in my field, is how I see it. It is like a little light in my field, I say. It's like a little light that I know it's there, but that's all I know for a while. Like, I just know that there's a desire, but that's all there is to know for now. And then what happens is there will just be a moment. I can't rush it. The timing is perfect, where I suddenly will see what to do with that light, what to do with that desire that's been living in my field. And sometimes I am years with those types of things, sometimes, because in my mystical life, which is very different than my pre-mystical life, where I was like super anxious to like, if I was like past the ball, to like, who am I going to throw the ball to next? Like, what am I going to do with this? You know, I gotta like deal with it on my to-do list, you know. But from a mystical perspective, seeing a vision of a desire doesn't require action, actually. It's something that I can just acknowledge and then trust that I'll have more information when the timing's right. And so then I do things very quickly once I get the rest of the information. And just suddenly, like a week and a half ago, I just was sitting at my computer, and it was like, I'm going to invite Cole to come on and talk about the Hermit. There it was. So then I emailed Cole. Cole, we found a time available, and here I am bringing you the episode on the Hermit with Cole. Same with having Cole on Moon to Moon. Just knowing that's going to happen, not knowing when though. Could be years. You know, I have people I know I'm going to have on Moon to Moon, but I don't have the information about the timing yet, you know? And I just trust all that because it helps keep things moving forward, where I'm only acting on the things that I have the most information for, which allows things to keep moving. So sharing a little behind the scenes of my process there in case that was useful or helpful to somebody. So yeah, the Magician's Table, it's really exciting, y'all. There are a lot of people on this wait list. Let me think. I'm like trying to do the math. There are 50% more people signed up for the list than there are seats available for the Magician's Table this year. And we still have a lot more time to go between now and when applications open for the list to grow. So my invitation to you is to get your name on the wait list if you want to give this to yourself. If you want to have this experience, get your name on the wait list, but more, please intend to get your application in the first 24 hours of Early Bird Weekend, because I am going to be filling the spots one by one in the order that they come in. I use Google Forms, and it just, like, that's the control mechanism for the order, is it's tracking for me the order that they've been received. And I just, as I go, I'm just filling in the rooms. The rooms being the 5 cohorts of 12. And so I'll just begin filling everyone in based on their preference for cohort. Some people will have to be in certain cohorts based on their time zone and their life. And some people may be very flexible, which is awesome for when we get down to the end. And there's almost always some cohorts have more demand than others just because of the fluke of people's schedules in that particular year. And so if you're on the wait list, early in that week, I'm going to send you the list of all the application questions so that you can prepare your answers. So all you have to do, as soon as I send you the link, Thursday, February 27th at 6:45 p.m. Central at the exact new moon in Pisces. I suppose it will be Friday for friends in Europe. But at that point, all you'll have to do is copy and paste your answers into the Google form, press submit, and now you know that you are going to be one of the first people in line. So you will have first dibs. And then within a few days, I will get back in touch with you. I will then send you the link to enroll and give you a time limit, like 3 days or something, TBD, and just say your seat will be reserved for this amount of time to get through the door. And that's how it will roll. So if you want this, please intend to submit early, because that way you can be sure that you get your spot. Okay. Just feeling such a strong resonance with this theme this year. This conversation with Cole is really beautiful, and we just kept going deeper and deeper. So really inviting you to stay all the way to the end, because I feel like the last 20 minutes was like, we were almost like in a trance together. We were in a deep place and really beautiful. You can really sense Cole's magic. She's a Gemini rising and a Virgo sun. So she has a lot of knowledge and a lot of information from her intense study of the tarot. Many resources were mentioned for learning, and they're all in the show notes, which Cole helped me gather because she is so devoted to her love of the tarot, which I have been so privileged to witness over these years. Just utter, unflagging devotion from a deep, deep, deep heart-led place. She's a real treasure of a human being, and I'm so excited to share her wisdom with you here on Moon to Moon. Here is Cole's bio. Cole is a word weaver, tarot traveler, and magic maker. A Virgo sun and Gemini rising, she finds Mercury fascinating and confounding in blissfully unequal measure. She attains her joy in constellating with her community and aims to elevate and empower her tarot clients as a guide at their side, rather than to lead the way. Cole spent her 20s and early 30s pursuing a career in psychology as a family therapist specializing in adolescent counseling. And she rediscovered her love for tarot just before her first Saturn return. Over the last decade, she has embraced her life as a lifelong learner and seeker, standing now at the crossroads of wisdom and mystery, knowing there are more trails to uncover. Perhaps you will show her a path you have found in the digital realm. Cole shares explorations centering on creative expression and tarot adventuring, and you can find her on Instagram and Substack under Rosie Cole Reads. So it's at Rosie Cole Reads on Instagram. I'll include links. On the physical plane, she finds comfort in sharing a home with her two 13-year-old Gemini crone kitties, with open books and a tarot deck within arm's reach. In either dimension, she will try to make you laugh. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cole. What a beautiful bio. Yes, so inviting you to enjoy our conversation. May they deepen and expand your hermit studies, your hermit embodiment, your hermit pathway in 2025 and beyond. Hello, Cole of Rosie Cole Reads. Welcome back to Moon to Moon.
Hi, Britton. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited and pumped to be here.
I was reflecting that we've known each other quite a few years now. Was it 2019 or 2020? Do you remember when we
I
first
think it was, I
connected?
think it was actually 2021. It was
2021.
the soft strength with that was co led with Jonathan Coe. And it
Yes.
was lead the promo window, I think, for soft strength where I saw you on IG live and was like, "Oh, let me check this out." And totally fell in love with the approach and the way that both of you talked about this concept of soft strength. Yeah.
Hmm. So did you know Jonathan through another space or from Instagram?
I actually found out about both of you at the same time because one of my friends that I went to school with is friends with Mariola. And she had reached out to me saying, "Oh my gosh, my
Oh.
friend is taking courses with Britton LaRue. Like you need to know about her." And then I think at that same time, that was when I found out about the workbooks, which Virgo Sun loves a workbook or 12. So I was super excited about that. And then I found that out at the same time when you and Jonathan were doing the promo. So I actually met Jonathan or found out about Jonathan through you at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, I love to hear this. Yeah, I've enjoyed your various journaling, reverent journaling posts over the years.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we're both uh, journaling witches, journaling nerds. What would you say?
I think journaling witches sounds or like, yeah, witches of the word, journaling witches. I'm totally down with that.
Yes. Yes, and let's see, you were in the Magician's Table 2022?
Yep.
No, or
Yeah.
2023-ish with Rebecca Paget, right? As the
It was 2022 actually,
it was
where
22. She was
yeah.
in your cohort
Yes, yes, yes. And then I think Mariola and then so Mariola Rosario and then Megan Fry were the
with
13th readers for that cohort and Mariola was my 13th reader for my group.
oh
Yes.
my gosh. And it's funny. I don't know that I ever was outward with this, but inwardly I thought of your particular cohort as the hermit cohort, which is our
Oh,
topic today.
I love that.
It
Okay.
just seemed like it had this like quality of it being a gathering space for strong hermits.
Mm.
I don't know if that resonates with you and from your experience.
Yeah, that absolutely does because I think for a while I had been studying tarot for about 8 years at the time, but I hadn't read for people other than my family. So being part of the Magician's Table and then doing readings like every week for different people was really the first time I got to try on different styles of how I wanted to read or how to tailor the reading to what my fellow magician was looking for. And I think that it was a way for in a way about bringing the kind of thinking and knowledge that I had been sitting on as the hermit and actually like bringing that back in this sense and
Mm-hmm.
just like so more like testing out or putting to putting out in the physical world what I had been cooking in my head a little bit over the previous few years. So I love that sense because it was an opportunity to do that and to experiment and figure out and have that experience, I think, to yeah, to experiment, which seems yeah.
Yes. You were then in an experimental container. I did fall 2024. No, that would be last fall. The one before. 2023 Vulture Coven, which was
Yeah,
like an experimental sibling of the Magician's Table.
absolutely.
Maybe coming back. Not sure. That was super fun.
Yes.
And you were in that one. And then I remember everyone in that container was required to hold space for me as like part of the offer.
Yeah.
And that reading that you gave me, like that December-ish,
Mhm.
was super divinatory. I mean,
Oh,
I lived into that one a long time, and you really foresaw and um like helped forge this timeline of some of my behind the scenes shifting, which was going even more psychic and intuitive. And yeah, one of my favorite things about your work is how you have so many decks and you know so many things about the deck world, and you're able to attune to just the right deck to bring forward for whoever you're sitting with.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I love that. That makes my heart happy to hear about that, um, what that reading meant for you or how that, yeah, how that sat with you. I really love that. Thank you.
Hmm. There was that one deck. I'm so glad we're speaking about this so I can remember to look it up. But it was like the Black Madonna or something like
Oh
this.
yes, yes. That yeah, the tarot of the mysteries of the Black Madonna by
Mm.
her name's Hettienne Grobler, and she's an artist and she's an artist in South Africa who venerates Mother Mary, and her decks, she creates these shrines where she takes pictures of the these little pocket kind of shrines. Um, and she those become the cards. So yeah. And that was a
Whoa.
Hierophant that I pulled for you. Oh, I should have asked you.
I know.
I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
I got so excited. I was like, I remember pulling the Hierophant and we were just looking at each other like, oh my gosh, of course.
Thank you for remembering what card it was. Yeah. When that came forward, because if listeners, that's my life card. And if you don't know what that means, it's when you can add up the digits to your from your birth year and date and month and break them down to like what's the number. Is that how you would describe how to find your life card? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
My digits add up to 32, so then 3 plus 2 is 5. Um,
Yes. Yes. And then mine's 36, so mine's 3 plus 6 and 9. So
that's 9, and it's your life card. Oh my gosh, we are really building towards our topic. Um, Yeah, I can't remember the other deck that you used, but it was like very colorful and kind of sprightly. Like there was like a sprightly fairy quality to it. It was
I'll
like
have to
watercolors. Yeah, I
I'll have
can't
to, it might
remember.
have been the Lumina Tarot
I
by
think it that was the name.
yeah, by why am I blanking on her name now? Lauren Alita and Tegan
Okay.
Swiney. Yeah, Tegan Swiney did the work and I think Lauren Alita wrote the book. Yeah, the Lumina Tarot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There you pulled like the moon and all these different cards that suggested kind of going into more of a like a night space with my work, and that is exactly what happened last year.
Right.
So pretty cool. And you're in on shaming your chart now, which I love having you back.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Every time I see an email, I'm like, I want to join this. I want to join this. And then I feel like I get so excited about containers too that I have to almost watch myself a little bit because I feel that in between containers, I kind of, as a maybe this is I'm just blaming my Gemini rising for this and the Mercury aspect of myself, but just being like, oh, now what? We'll wait for the next container and then we'll see. And so I feel like sometimes I have to be a little bit more intentional about how I choose when and wanting to make sure that I can really devote 100% to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I imagine it's the same with decks. I know you have so many, like how to balance, oh, I want another one with like, well, you're still getting to, this is me, it's like you're still getting to know the one you bought 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, how do you know when it's time to buy another one versus like, no, we're gonna wait.
There are definitely decks that I want to study a lot longer than I would with other ones. Like there are some that feel like, oh, this is like at least a year-long study of one deck before I can even start to use it for someone else. Um, But I feel that I always get excited about decks, especially when they're on like Kickstarter. That's kind of one of my weaknesses because I love being able to support independent artists, so I just get super excited. Um, but I think one of the I definitely have, I'll say, enough decks to last a lifetime, but there is always that there I'm always just so interested to see what the creator does, and I'm so intrigued by what they say about the art that they choose, the intentionality that goes into it. And some decks that I have been like projects for like 20 years. Like there's one that's the Margaret Peterson tarot, and she worked on that for like 20 years. I know Marielle tarot is another tarot that I think was at least 10 years that that the creator took to work on it. So a lot of the times I just get so excited about the artists themselves that I'm like, oh, I want to support you. I would love to try this deck. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, you introduced me to another artist from a different reading, which was further back in time. I don't remember what year it was, but it was kind of this like Alice in Wonderland style art. Um,
That might be the Tiger Tarot. Uh,
yeah, that's what it was.
it was a New York artist, I think, Lori Field.
Yes, it was.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I bought it for my boyfriend's daughter.
Oh my God.
I got
Wow.
like the one of the last ones
Oh,
of the edition that she was selling because she was getting ready to create another edition.
oh, that's great. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to turn towards our topic today, the hermit. The
Mhm.
hermit here in 2025, hermit year. I would love to just give you some space to riff on like how you relate to the card, what it was like realizing it was your life card, how that resonates for you, how you help others when you pull the card to kind of drop into it.
Mm.
Yeah, just whatever comes up, just
Yeah.
go for it. Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like for the Hermit, the very first image that I ever saw of the Hermit, I actually saw the first tarot deck I ever saw was the Smith Waite or the Rider Waite Smith tarot deck. Um, and that shows the Hermit like on a mountaintop. And I was just so intrigued by that individual is very kind of a kind of stark image. They really stuck out. And one thing that I really liked about the hermit that I think at first was a little bit of some maybe unhealed, um, uh, unskillful hermit energy was this sense of being a martyr a little bit.
Hmm.
And I felt that sometimes that was something that I habitually played into. And there is something about the hermit in their essence that their their work is for the greater good. There's this kind of separation of ego, or this kind of where the ego kind of falls back and the work comes becomes about the journey and the experience and what is gained. And so thinking about how I felt about that in regard to the idea of martyrdom, I feel like there's no space for martyrdom when it comes to the hermit and their work. And I love that the hermit is actually so one of the things that we think about is that kind of removal from social spaces or this kind of withdrawing inward. Um, and as a species who's very social, it's interesting to think that there's this like this willing departure from connection. And what does that mean? And so, or what does that mean to each individual who chooses that route, or, you know, if we're kind of going with the archetypal journey of that. Um, and I think for the hermit, there's this idea of both tuning out and refining, um, kind of like the input a little bit. So kind of or quieting the noise, I want to say. kind of being able to discern the music from the noise.
Hmm.
And there's something about sound and speech, and I feel like that kind of relates to the Mercury aspect, but I feel that the overall work, or I keep saying work, of the hermit um is to kind of recognize that part of the journey has already taken place. So there's almost this awareness that the journey that you're on is already one that you've kind of decided to go on. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
and it almost becomes the hermit's journey is not really thinking about what the journey looks like to others, but about their experience of that and what they're learning from that. I feel like the hermit goes into um doesn't kind of go on the journey thinking this is what I'm going to be like when I'm done, when I'm back from the journey. They're kind of still figuring that out. So there's this kind of laser focus, this kind of honed in on their path. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it really, really resonates with me because I can have almost like I've never understood if it's pronounced myopia or myopia, but that sense of being in a tunnel and not wanting to be interrupted from my tunnel as I'm just kind of like dropping deeper and deeper and deeper into what I'm studying and what I'm learning with, and that whole journey that I'm on, taking
Mhm.
me places that really appeals to me about the hermit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. And I've actually read one of the books that I'm reading right now is it's called 36 Secrets by T. Susan Chang.
Yes, I have that actually. It's one of the 10,000 books in a stack on next to my bed.
Yes, yes, no, it's so good. And I love the way that she looks at it's a book about the minor arcana. And I think actually she uses the term myopia or myopia when it comes to the Eight of Pentacles, which is one of the Virgo cards. It's something like,
Aha.
um, I think she says, oh, is it like, I think she says focused myopia or myopia. It's something like that, or laser focused, honed in myopia. I know it's hard to
I know we were
when
both
you think
like,
about it. It's like harder to say. It's when a word you keep saying a word over and over and it almost like loses its meaning in that way. But
mhm.
yeah, mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember you once saying that that was one of your favorite cards.
Yes, yeah. It's my favorite minor. And but the nine of Pentacles is like where my decan falls,
Ah.
where my actual Virgo placement falls. So I'm a big Nine of Pentacles fan too. But yeah, Eight of Pentacles is probably my favorite minor. Yeah.
Hmm. What do you think for you? Because Nine of Pentacles is pretty great too.
Oh,
I can't complain. Um, they really get some good minors, the Virgo cards. Good
yeah.
for Virgo. They take it in other places.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not always rewarded with the good stuff. But yeah, for you, I know this is like kind of an aside, but just for tarot nerds, what for you energetically is kind of a difference between the eight and the nine there?
Yeah. I think the eight is so like I'm thinking of the figure on the card in the Smith Waite who's like actively working on one of the pentacles, and the other six are like in a row in a column, and one's on the ground, and he's just kind of like just this laser focus that he's not it's like a positive working kind of like card in that way, but he's so kind of looking at what he's doing that he's not necessarily potentially enjoying it. And I feel like the Nine of Pentacles is where there's this realization of the work that's has been done, and sort of like a, oh my gosh, I did that thing. I made all eight of those. And so that's almost the sense of the zooming in for like the Eight of Pentacles and then zooming out a little bit to see the bigger picture with the Nine of Pentacles.
I like this. Yes. I feel that. Yeah, I feel like maybe the zooming in is like a little more my pattern or like my go-to, but it is pretty nice to zoom back out. It's interesting to think about the lantern of the hermit kind of in a similar way, but let me tease this out here. Like sometimes the lantern feels like it's for me, like in the sense that it's taking me places. I
Mm.
don't know where I'm going. And I love that that is associated with mutability, right? Because Virgo is mutable. So we're not getting anywhere, right? Like you were saying, where it's a process. And but I also think of the hermit, the lantern in terms of shining it outward, like when you want to share it. And the lantern is the thing you're sharing. Um, yes, you're part of what you're sharing too, but it's not really about you. It's what you've devoted yourself to studying and falling in love with, basically. Does that resonate?
No, yes, I did that definitely. That resonates for me a lot because it's almost like when you say like you're sharing that, like say if we're using the light in the lantern as a metaphor, you're also partaking in that. So it's not like we're experiencing the light at the expense of someone else. It's that there's this kind of communal sense about it that's like this is shared and it's infinite. Even
Mm.
though it's contained within this lantern, what that represents and the illumination that it brings is self-regenerating.
Yeah, I love that too because it underlines like I love the idea that what you're sharing with the your lantern, it's not about like um inviting other people to see exactly what you see or to be exactly into your version of it, but to go in and then begin having their own experience with the light lantern themselves.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that inherently to me invites in sovereignty rather than like cultiness.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like you're alongside someone on the path. You're side by side, not in front of. You're not like
Mhm.
competing. You're just on like alongside them, being like, yeah, let's figure out where this goes together.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Yeah, so I'm curious how you've been conceiving of 2025 in terms of hermit year. And
yeah.
do you have any thoughts in terms of like moving from strength into hermit? Like, does that feel like something to you, or do you have like a working sense of what it means? Even if it's just personal.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I tend to look at the card of the year compared to what my personal card of the year is. So when I add my birthday, like my the month and the day to what 2025 is, I actually get the number 22, which many people would kind of, or one approach to that is to add those two together, and so you get the Emperor. But I actually follow Mary K. Greer's kind of correspondence where she actually associates that with the Fool, because otherwise there's no other way you could add up your birthday and get zero because it's just impossible. So 22 is
Mm.
kind of like that zero part, and then if you get to 23, then you add two and three. But so my personal card of the year is the Fool. And at first I was like, it was really challenging to like reconcile the two. Other than like, oh, they're both on a cliff, just one's looking where they're going and the other one's just like la-di-da. Uh, but I actually find that to be um I feel like with the Hermit, sometimes there can be that laser focus that it's like, what is like the experience that you're having, that it's almost become kind of a self-contained bubble. And I think that's something where it's almost like um it can be seen or depicted as or portrayed as that you're maybe sticking your head in the sand or not connected to what's kind of like going on around you because you're kind of in this on this journey. But I feel that for that experience with the hermit, especially coming back from strength feels like such a big kind of almost explosive card. Like there's just so much, the sun is so radiant, like the that lion, that presence, that it's almost like the hermit feels like that invitation um to kind of my what the phrase that's kind of coming up for me right now is the invitation to feel like to take up a little less space than you feel you
Hmm.
need to. And I don't mean that in a way of shrinking oneself down, but almost like the sense of the going from strength to hermit as like maybe the hackles kind of come down a little bit and there's this openness to connection, um rather than like this is such big energy that I kind of have to figure out how to think about it myself before I kind of bring it forth, or like there yeah, so there's still a communal sense in both of them, but to a different in a different branch of like the same tree perhaps.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember that you have multiple planets in Leo as well, right?
Yep, Leo stellium, yes. In the house. Yeah, Mars, Mercury, and Venus are all in Leo.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a personal threshold, I suppose, for you is the strength, hermit, Leo, Virgo. Does that feel true?
Yeah, it does. I feel like even though I'm someone who still feels relatively new to astrology, I'm always drawn to that point in my chart, that like that cusp of like the 3 to the 4. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it lands in my chart. And so yeah, that definitely resonates because there is, I think when I first did my chart and I was like, what? Most of my signs are fire? Excuse me? Like I thought it was gonna be air or earth. And it was like, nope, you have like 4 fixed fires and all that. So yeah.
I love that. Oh, yeah. I'm curious what your favorite hermit card is of all your decks. Or do you have certain? It's okay if you have more than one.
I do have more than one, but it's there's one deck that I'm working with now called the Rose Bay Tarot.
Mm.
It's like Rose and then BAE. And she's an amazing creator on Instagram, and her tarot deck of the Rose Bay Tarot is all every card has roses on it. And really I'm someone who really needs, or I feel like I have had this story of where I feel like I need figures in my cards, like I need to see people in my cards. But I've been working with this one, and the Hermit is shown like this.
Aww.
And I love that there's this kind of zoomed out Earth, and that there's a like waxing moon. Um, because for some reason, when I think of the Hermit, I almost think of like a dark moon.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I love this. So like I feel like I've been more experimenting with different types of like hermit cards, but I mean it's hard not to love the original Rider-Waite-Smith, but I do also love the Thoth deck one too. That like the way that that light from that lantern shines like in all different geometric directions. It's very pleasing. Like visually
Yeah.
pleasing.
That's what I got right here.
Ugh, it's so good. So good.
I
Yeah.
can't remember what the symbolism of the three-headed dog is. I don't, there's a lot of symbolism in this card, and sometimes with the tarot, I get a little lost when it's like loaded with symbolism, but I
Yeah.
like appreciate the vibe. My Mercury's in Pisces, and it's like we're all vibe over here.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it means, but I'm noticing it right now since I have a new dog.
It might be, I mean, I'm not to say that I know better than, what Lady Frida Harris did, but I think it has something to do with Mercury being like the psychopomp that can cross over into the
Hmm.
underworld. And so I think that's what that reference is. But yeah, the symbolism there. There's sometimes, so many books come out about these like classic or traditional decks, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I want to read these. Like I'm so interested to know, but like I also want to kind of be like, I don't know what that means, and like I'm okay with it. I just know
Yeah,
what it's like what it's feeling in this reading right now. Yeah.
totally. Totally. Right. So you can stay in that open and receptive place
Yeah.
rather than worrying about getting it right or wrong.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel that very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've shared with you that the theme for the Magician's Table this year is the devotion that's driving you. And I didn't know that I was tapping into hermit energy. It was really feeling the energy of the folks I had invited to be 13th readers. And do you know any of them?
I know Shahir,
To
and
hear. Okay.
yes, yes, but I'm actually I've just finished listening to their episode, and then I'm gonna listen to the other two. But yeah.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, love devotee Shahir. Yeah, and then as we got into 2025, I was like, hermit. That's what this is. It's like a hermit magician year. And that's fun because it's two cards that have mercurial associations. So you were speaking a minute ago about the fool and the hermit. Yeah, I'm curious if anything comes up for you when you think about the combination of hermit and magician.
Yeah, yeah. And I think of too, like they might seem on the surface that they're very different. It feels like the magician has all their tools around them. Um, and then the hermit's more stripped down a little bit with the stick and the lantern, but I feel that they're both um expressions of the same kind of energy, but just in different situations. So it feels like both of them have this sense of this willpower. It's just kind of expressed in a different sense that maybe the magician is able to, both of them use their resources well. Like they know how to use their resources, they know how to use their tools. And so that's what I think of them in the similarity. And I think I think sometimes when I first started studying tarot, I was looking at sometimes in older, or like maybe like, in the 50s and stuff like that, there were some ideas of like the fool's journey through the tarot. And so it might seem that because the hermit is farther along in the numbers than the magician, that they're there's almost this hierarchical structure to it, but I think they're actually at the same place in their own journeys. It's just that the way it's
Mhm.
expressed and depicted varies. But there definitely feels like that similar mercurial feel of that, using what you've got to the best extent that you can.
Mhm. I love that you're bringing up resources as a key a key aspect that the two of them share. I feel like tapping into one's own resourcefulness really is truly one of the most empowering gifts you can give yourself is knowing how to move towards what will resource you, who will resource you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like and then as a space holder feeling into what resources can I give this person I'm holding space for,
Mhm.
this community that I have built, like providing that could then create just all these bridges to other things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I feel like that I keep thinking of one of the things that really got me so interested in the magician's table was that idea of the round table and how at a round table everyone is equal. There's no like no head of the table. It's just, and so I always kind of pictured in my mind all of us like gathered around this round table. And I like the way of like thinking of the hermit in that sense because it's like the lantern's in the center. And so everyone is seeing and
Mm.
experiencing its light. It's it's glowing to all in all directions and reflected back within each other, within ourselves and to each other. And so there's just so much, it feels just so much palpable possibility and potentiality there, and not in a potential like how it can be used nowadays, like, oh, live up to your potential. No, it's that also like just a potency and just feeling into there's so many possibilities. I think possibility is more the word I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Sense, yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of feeling like the more one dives in a hermit kind of way to their own research and resourcing,
Mhm.
the more than when you go to that magician table and you're like gonna do some magic, you feel so connected to your tools from that kind of deep devotional time that you've invested in more of like a hermit frequency.
Yes, yes. And it's almost like that you kind of recognize the sacredness of those tools through that journey, through taking that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious what you're currently like deep diving in and studying and like just getting into
Yeah.
these
So I
days.
Yeah, so I've actually gone back a little bit into some of the tarot history that I had been looking at a couple years ago. Stuart Kaplan had like four encyclopedias of like the history of different tarot decks, and I remember a few years ago being so interested to find out that in the Visconti deck, that the hermit was actually holding an hourglass, not a lantern, and that over time it kind of turned into a lantern, um, for unknown kind of reasons. But I remember reading about that and then the potential connection between how it was a reference to these triumphal processions that would take place at the time, where each kind of parade float kind of triumphed over the other. And the one that the hermit was associated with was time. And there was like this Saturn, he was like an
Hmm.
old man. And so there was this sense of how the hermit originally was just kind of like the natural passage of time, and then it kind of changed into a little bit kind of retaining that old figure, the older figure, the crone figure, but like having a different tool. And so I think for a little time I got a little like very like myopic, focused myopia on that it was like, oh, why did what does that mean that it was an hourglass and now it's a lantern, and like who decided it should be a lantern? And that's the thing that I think I confront with tarot, is that tarot is a constantly evolving language and set of symbols that cannot be pinned down. Meanings that, I don't mean to say traditional meanings, but I guess I'm going to say it here, that those may have had this particular potency in the past, but tarot has always evolved with the times. It was a trick-taking game to start with, and it became more of a divinatory tool, but that goes to show that tarot adapts to its environment and the people that use it as a tool in itself, and it just can't be defined. Um, so I just love nerding out about that in particular.
Me too. That is fascinating. So it had more to do with just speaking to, like, if you pulled it, a kind of contemplation on time or something like this.
Yeah, it was kind of, I think there may have been some aspect of, because it was technically depicting a pagan deity and as Saturn, and Chronos that as the cards with the printing press and things becoming, it was kind of like, oh, we don't want to show pagan stuff on cards or something like that. So there was also that kind of aspect too. But I think it was
Uh-huh.
also just that time would come for everyone. It was almost like not necessarily like the death card, but there was something that came after it too. And I'm trying to remember what exactly it was, but there's kind of a relation to um Petrarch's E Triumphi poem, where I think fame was one of them, but fame was kind of conflated with like fortune, so like the like Fortuna. So fame
Hmm.
was also like a little bit like judgment. Like fame would kind of tell people like what you had done, and so it was kind of similar to the fortune in that way. And I'm forgetting a lot of what the other floats were, but there was that idea that um that that time would come and what he was associated with, and yeah, there was yeah, that sense of that Chronos time. Yeah.
Hmm. So tell me again this resource that you said you were learning about the history from?
Oh yeah, so it's Stuart Kaplan's four like it's Encyclopedia of Tarot by Stuart Kaplan, uh Kaplan, and they're in four volumes, and the ones that I feel like they talk about that the most is the second and the first volume. Uh,
Okay.
and yeah, that, and there's also an essay on the Visconti tarot. I'm blanking on who wrote that, but oh, her name begins with a G. I'll send you like the name of it. It's Gertrude Moakley, who wrote an essay about it. And I think I've just found that PDF just floating around a little bit. Yeah, yeah. I'm happy to send it to you though. It's really interesting. It's this deep dive into the Visconti imagery. But yeah, so yeah, it's an
Mhm.
Encyclopedia of Tarot, and another really good one, just because I have one of the books out. Is what's his name? Robert Place has a really good one.
Please.
Yeah, Robert Place. So it's the Tarot, History, Symbolism, and Divination.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is a really good one that it's sometimes it's hard to kind of wrangle up a lot of the history because it can seem so esoteric and obscure, but this like is really concise and succinct and kind of shows how different folks interpreted the cards throughout the years and how it evolved, and then especially around the Victorian era when the Golden Dawn and other groups would use the kind of symbolism there, how that changed. So that gives a nice like thorough through line. So it's um really it's easy to follow and not too like dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. My mind is always thinking about these things. I'm like, yeah, you could have like a link in your bio that has like bibliography for learning about the tarot and um, you have so many resources. It's one of my favorite things about talking with you.
Thank you.
What
Yeah, I've
I
been
wanted, go
I was,
ahead.
I was gonna say I've been meaning to post more on Instagram. I kind of stopped when I went out of town to nanny for like an extended period of time, and then it was like, oh, I have to reintegrate back to Instagram and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
been
it's never fun to relate to it from like gotta get back in, But yeah, I enjoy your posts when I see them. So I'm curious how you choose a deck when you're going to read for someone. Does it just appear based on the messages they say in the form?
sometimes, yeah, sometimes it does, and then sometimes it also depends on a little bit of the vibe, for lack of a better word, of what I'm sensing from the person that I've already kind of like say someone I read for in Vulture Coven. I think it was like the fifth week I read for them, and I kind of had an idea. And I usually actually have like maybe four or five, and I'll present them and say which one calls to you, and if none of them do, I have more. Where that comes from. It's like just right up my sleeve. There's something, But I'm just teasing. But yeah, and then for some there was one deck in particular for this person that I felt really drawn to, and it was the Gentle Tarot by Mari.
Mm.
I forget her last name. Mari in the Sky. That's because her name's Mari in the Sky, Mari. The Gentle Tarot, it's this beautiful nature-based tarot based on the Alaskan archipelago and all of that, the nature there. Um,
Mm.
and it was interesting because I had picked it because of the title, especially, and the person ended up coming in being like, I just need some comfort right now. And I was like, well, got this. Like, it's one of those things where there's some decks where I feel more comfortable reading with than others. Like some are like, I've only read with these a few times. And it was kind of like I was a little bit unsure about using the deck, but I just knew it was the right one to use. And it was almost like that sense of just trusting and knowing in the deck that comes forth. Um, and there's something about that that feels very hermit-like too, because I feel like one of the real through lines of the hermit is just this faith and trust in where you're going. Even if you're not sure where it might be or where it may lead, there's a faith that you're on this sort of path or for or trajectory for a particular reason, or there's this like trusting the divine timing, so to speak.
Yeah, now you're reminding me that there was another reading you'd given me in the middle of Ultra Coven, and
Oh,
I cried talking about receiving that reading. You remember?
I do remember because I was when that happened, I was like starting to cry myself. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I feel weepy again.
Mm,
Um, there was like that feeling in the room of like I was struggling to be with where you were going, and you stayed with your cards and what they were showing you. And we kind of like moved through it without, and it's like you didn't back down in your trust in your relationship to the cards, that something was going to come through and then we're going to be in the flow. And then it happened. And like we got into the river, like we went into it together. But I felt a lot of resistance, but I was trusting you because you were trusting the cards and you weren't backing down. And it was like such a journey of a reading.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember you saying that when a magician trusts their tools, or that
Yeah.
how that that meant to you, or how that touched you and landed with you. That because I remember that reading too, that it was almost like a maybe like a what am I not seeing? And it's not that what am I not seeing? It wasn't that. It was what isn't being seen right now. And so there seems to
Mhm.
be like this when you step away, or when I as a reader kind of step away out of that I that's when really the magic, so to speak, takes place. That's where it opens up and like almost like unfurls like a rose, where you can really kind of feel into and see like where that's going. But yeah, yeah.
What a phrasing. Instead of what am I not seeing, it's what is not being seen.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then earlier in this conversation, you were saying something about the hermit being like the ego falling back. And you kind of just did the same thing with your hands, which feels like we're returning to a key point, right? It's like learning to trust in what's being revealed
Mhm.
um, in that pathway or something like this. Does that resonate?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that trust that you have and that one can see in someone who's giving them a reading of like just a deep relationship between the magician and their modality, the magician and their tools, the magician and their guides. That is such a breathtaking experience for the reader because something is getting revealed, and it's super mysterious.
Yeah. And there's this reverence for the process.
Yes.
And yeah, and just this kind of this stewardship and this reverence for what's being revealed and what yeah, just what's being revealed and what wants to be revealed and what's being shown. Yeah.
Yeah. What does it feel like to you, that frequency of reverence when it comes to your relationship to the tarot? Like, what it's interesting to feel into, like, what is it that one is revering? Is it so mysterious?
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like it's interesting because when I think about that kind of feeling when I feel the most like heart full, it
Mm-hmm.
almost feels like this kind of connectivity of like my spine that goes along my spine line, like from crown to root, and just this, it feels very like open, and I feel like the reverence is for that. Also, interestingly, the time taken out to do the reading, because it's almost like when you have an altar, like this is the altar, this is the space where this is going to happen. This reading is setting that time and that space apart from the everyday things that sometimes take up a lot of our time, but it's that reverence to almost the moment, and just that this is a space that is for this reading, for this magic, for this conversation, this co-creation only. It has like those bounds there, but these loving bounds that are just like um we return to the daily stuff after this, but while we're here, we're fully in it.
Mm. That's really fascinating too when we recall this hourglass piece to the hermit embedded in the history. Um, yeah, I really love that you said that about part of what the reverence is revering this moment because this is all there is when we're in it. I think that that's really got to be the best feeling about readings,
Mhm.
right? Is that feeling of like everything else drops away.
Yes, yes. It feels super connected, but just so full. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it's one of those things that's it's so hard to describe, but when it's happening, you know it's happening.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And there's some third thing, like Mercury relating to threes, between the magician and the other human being. There's a third thing going on.
Yeah.
Is it time? Is it what is it? But that's a fact. That's just the best feeling of like we are being held here
Mhm.
and this is what there is and it feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And it feels like that, like the symbolism of the infinity loop that appears on the magician, that appears, that it just feels like there's, even when I like make that symbol with my hands, there's like this rhythm that falls into it. And so it's just this, yeah, this kind of feeling that maybe at that center of that infinity loop, it's kind of like the intersection of where that reading takes place, or that's what it feels like to kind of be at the threshold or crossroads or of that those loops together.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, thank you for naming that too. Thank you so much for these contemplations on reverence and devotion. And myopia. I'm gonna go look up the etymology like as soon as we get off because now I want to know. and the pronunciation. But yeah, is there when you were thinking about coming today and speaking to the hermit, our dear hermit, were there any other things that you wanted to name or feel yourself speaking for the hermit?
I feel like when I think of the hermit and their devotion, their um dedication to the path, not knowing where it may lead, and almost that being the great part about the journey is this idea of like staying the course. Like staying the course, maintaining the focus, but staying the course. And the truth to staying true to oneself while staying the course.
I just got shivers. Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of why it feels like this is such good medicine right now is just there's so much in the world that
Mhm.
can make it feel hard to stay the course, you know?
Yes, yes. And to
And
sorry, go ahead.
no, no, please, I want to hear what you're going to say.
Yeah. I was to say, and almost to like withdraw and to almost like not go on the course, to almost just really envelop oneself in stillness. But there's this sense of that staying the course that is a stillness in itself almost because it's like this continuous dedication and devotion to where you're going, to just even going somewhere that's different. And so that kind of brings in uh just that sense of purposefulness, but purposefulness um for the self, for the collective, in that way of that staying the course. Yeah.
Yes, nodding, nodding, nodding. I love this idea of that staying that the course is a stillness.
Mm,
There's a paradox there that's really nice
mm,
because it's not freeze, you know?
yeah.
There's a difference between freeze and stillness.
Yes, yes. There's like a difference between like absence of motion versus like that that continued revolving or revolution, so to speak. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's almost like when you hear like when everything is super, super quiet and you almost I hear like this high pitched kind of when you like hear the sound of silence, and it's like, how does that make sense when you hear silence? But there's it's like, yeah, but it's like when that falls away, it's like what remains when like the outside kind of noise or dross falls away, what still remains. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and it feels like talk about resources. Like this is a way to resource oneself is to go into that place,
Mm. Yes.
you know, even if it might appear like you're not getting anything done or like coming to an outcome.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
is a kind of not results based um, way to stay the course. It's not about the results. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to not, it's hard, I think, sometimes in, the current day not to think of the result or the outcome, but in that way, when we kind of close ourselves off to other possibilities. And I feel like that's one thing that the hermit's about. It's that just where does this path lead? And I'm going to follow it no matter what.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a lot of trust.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you so much, Cole. I really appreciate this time with you.
Yeah.
How
Thank
can listeners connect to you?
you. So I'm on Instagram under Rosie.Cole Reads. ROSIECOLE reads as in like reads a book, READS. And I'm got a fledgling slash sapling Substack that has been growing some cobwebs that I'm dusting off a bit, but Instagram is my main place that I'm at. So Rosie Cole Reads on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Cole.
Thank you so much, Britton.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your big heart with Moon to Moon. Listeners, encouraging you to follow Rosie Cole Reads and learn with her through her writings and her presence in the world. There are lots of resources in our show notes from references made in our conversation today, inviting you to go check out those decks or those books if you feel called to go deeper with anything that we've shared here. If you're interested in the Magician's Table 2025, encouraging you to check out the course page, and through any of the buttons there, you can sign up for the wait list. The wait list you have to be on in order to get the link to apply when applications open at 6:45 p.m. Central on February 27th at the new moon in Pisces. Early bird weekend initiates then through Sunday night. And so if you want the discounted pricing of early bird, your application has to be received in that window. If you want to apply for a scholarship, your application has to be received in that window. And as I mentioned in the intro here, we have way more people on the wait list than we have seats. So I'm inviting you to please go and set your timers, get everything ready to get your application in within the first 24 hours. I would aim to get it in Thursday night or Friday of that weekend so that you can feel really good about the likelihood of your spot being reserved for you. This is how you give yourself a chance to give this gift to yourself. That is the Magician's Table, for it is a gift. It is a gift. All right. On that note, I'm making this intro and outro on Friday, and I'm realizing that when this comes out, I will have just announced, if you're still listening, I will have just announced my mini workshop, my Magician's Table mini workshop that I'm calling Burning Through the Freeze. This mini workshop is going to be for everyone who is on the wait list as a gift. So it is free for everyone on the list. If you don't want to be on the wait list, but you want this mini workshop, you can pay me $25 for it. So inviting you to check that out through the links in the show notes. You'll be hearing about it on Instagram. You'll be hearing about it in my newsletter as well. Basically, I'm going to be creating it tomorrow, so then I'll know exactly how long it is. But it's going to be about a half hour because it's a mini. Half hour, I tend to go over sometimes, so it could be 45 minutes. But it's going to be a very potent invitation to collaborate with the element of fire to support you when you feel frozen. Frozen as in there's not energy moving. You feel stagnant or stuck, or that you have a plan, but you're not moving on it. You have a thing you want to do, but you're not talking about it. You have a vision, but it's like the rest of you is not moving into action around it. There's like a freeze response of some kind. And collectively, we can be in a collective freeze, especially in times of catastrophe, in times of tragedy, and in times of major chaos. And then there's personal freeze. And sometimes it's hard to tell, am I in personal or am I in collective? Ultimately, working with fire is a way to shift energy. It's a way to create movement where there is no movement. And I'm going to be guiding you into collaborating with the planets that rule the 3 fire signs. So Mars, the Sun, and Jupiter. I may bring in Vesta. I'm thinking about doing that as well to support you in tending to the fire, tending to your fires, your desires, your passions, and where you want to put your energy. Where do you want to put your energy? So the energy's got to go somewhere, and it's not a great feeling when it's not going anywhere. So this mini workshop is going to be for all y'all who resonate with what I'm saying right now. Who doesn't know freeze? And I happen to be in a very deep relationship with the fire. I think many, many people come to my space because they sense that and they want to learn from me around that. They want guidance with their own fire. They want to feel inspired by the way I relate to my fire. One of the things that Magician's Table is a major invitation for cultivating relationship with your elements. The suits, the cup, the wand, the sword, the pentacles. Here we're going to be talking about your wand. And so I'm going to be creating, basically it's not going to be a live class. You don't have to be anywhere. I'm going to create this offering that will give you some very clear prompts and very clear steps, very clear invitations to support you in creating some movement when you feel frozen. So it's called Burning Through the Freeze, a Magician's Table mini workshop. It's going to be a gift to everyone on the Magician's Table 2025 waitlist and $25 for everyone not on the waitlist. And it's only going to be available through March 2nd. So if this sounds sexy to you, inviting you to either join the waitlist or just enroll through the link in the show notes to get your workshop. All right. Thank you so much. Wishing you a beautiful day whenever you're listening to this. If you have any questions about the Magician's Table, please do not hesitate to reach out to my team at info@brittenlarue.com. All right. Until next time, big hugs.